I'm going to believe that I actually do this. Yeah, you'll It's going to get all 20 of you in? Wow. Handsome devils. Okay. So, I've prepared a speech. I haven't prepared at all because what I normally do is I tell you a bit about More Than Meets the Eye and the records and how this all started, and that's all a bit old now. So I'm sort of going to take a leap of faith and assume that most people sitting here know about More Than Meets the Eye and have read some of it. And maybe we sort of just jump straight into the Q&A bit and roll up our sleeves and get stuck in. I will answer what I can answer. I will not intentionally give spoilers away. But it might be that you've got some very carefully constructed questions, and unwittingly I tell you what happened in issue 50 or in the last issue, whenever that is. So we'll see. But if I do actually accidentally say something I shouldn't, we've all got to keep it secret. Okay, that's the. I'm sure we are airtight here. There's no way anything here can be leaked. So, in fact, actually, I'll tell you what, I'm so confident that this is a bit more of a candid conversation. I'm just going to do away with any sort of spoilerettes. I'll just tell you what happens over the next 10 or 20 issues, okay? But we've got to keep it. We've got to keep it between friends, okay? If it leaks. Okay, yeah. So that I think is the way forward. So we'll do. You hit me with questions, and I'll do my best to satisfy you with an answer. I hope there are now questions after that.
Alright, my name is Evan, and I'm curious, when it comes to holometa avatars, what kind of goes into the creation for some of those for certain characters? Worlds was pretty great, I do say so myself.
The concept of holometa avatars is Simon Fernand's, so it cropped up in Infiltration and in that era of the IDW universe. And when we introduced them into More Than Meets the Eye, we made a point of saying that this is sort of a variation on the normal program. So I think it's brainstormed and run together, and the fact that they've contributed to this together is perhaps telling. They've refined the program so that I think we say that it reflects on some level the psyche of the person making the projection. So I quite like the vagueness that sort of gives us, and it leaves room for you to read into the holometa avatars what you will. It's a timely question because issue 43, which is out the week after next, Cyclonus makes his debut as a holometa avatar, and there'll be other avatars that you've not seen before in that issue. So it may be that when you look collectively at all the More Than Meets the Eye crew and how they're represented, perhaps that'll answer your question.
Thank you.
Hello, James. I was really pleased with what you've done with Megatron, who historically has never been one of my favorite characters because I found him too one-dimensional, but what you've done over the past year has really been fantastic, and I was curious, what was it that inspired you to have Megatron do the faction switch, and so far seems to be doing his best to try and get past all his dark history?
Well, I can't claim credit entirely for the idea. I mean, it came about through essentially a brainstorming session for Dark Cybertron back in August 2012, actually. So I remember that the last part of, the first part of Shadowplay was about to be released. That's how long ago it was. And there was a brainstorming session at Hasbro's headquarters because there was a plan to, use the next wave of Generation toys to tie in more closely with the comics and things. And the 12-part Dark Cybertron was the result. And there was a number of us in there. John Barber was there too, and others from Hasbro. And it was sort of we were. I was going to say literally throwing things at the wall. It didn't get to that point, but we were having ideas and writing them down. And it was someone else that said, "Well, what about Megatron becoming an Autobot?" And it was it didn't go anywhere, but it hung in the air as a possibility. And I think it was. I certainly thought to myself then, okay, that's a huge ask. in terms of getting the audience to swallow the fact that he would change. But at the same time, it's quite challenging too. And if we are going to go down that path and Megatron is going to become good, then I'd like him, please. I'd like to have him on the Lost Light. We knew that Prime wasn't on the Lost Light, obviously. He was doing his own thing in space, and you know, there were some pretty big A-listers in Rebels in Disguise. And I have actually liked being able to play with sort of the C and D-listers in more than meets the eye, but there was an appeal in having a real iconic Transformer character on the Lost Light. So I thought, you know, if we are going to do that with Megatron and he's up for grabs, I'll have him, please, and go from there. Because by that point, I mean, I'd already written the Chaos Theory two-parter in 2011, so that which had really tried to explore his origins and his motivations, and sort of given a bit of some political texture to his character development. So it seemed, you know, a real opportunity to go and run with that and build on those foundations. So yeah, I'm glad you like where he is in season 2, and he's got a few more travails and obstacles to come, some pretty significant ones. You know, we're certainly heading towards the finale of season 2, and it's all been about him, even if he's not front and centre in the stories. Most of what's happened is because of him. It's people's reactions to him. And when I presented to IDW the season 2 Bible, which set out the arcs for various characters, it says at the very beginning that season 2 is Megatron, and it's about either what he does or what other people do because of him. So it's all coming to a head.
Thank you.
I feel like it's an inquiry and I've done something really it's like, you know, ex-partners lining up and saying, then you did this to me. How do you explain that? Actually, this is very similar to that, you know, with the audience watching on. Sorry, right, you've got a question.
It's all good. Obviously, I'm not going to ask what rung is, because that's a giant spoiler. But we had that alternate timeline where Megatron was killed, and it's hinted whatever the heck he is, it's something vital and important and world altering. Are we ever going to see more of that, or is that just kind of a, look, we did this thing, and now you'll never know?
I'm not saying I'm above doing that, but no, that's there'll be a return to the functionist universe. Yep.
I'm curious.
I was going to ask you, is there going to be any more characters that sort of are hanging around the background, sort of come into the forefront?
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is yes. The difficulty is in the execution, because I mean, we've probably got one of the largest ensemble casts in comics, really. You know, there's probably about, because I'm looking to reintroduce the roll call, the Meet the Crew page. It needs an update. And it's probably going to be 2 pages now, because I think there's about 20 of them. And I've tried to, you know, rotate things so they each get a turn in the spotlight, or there's little subgroups within the main cast that get some love and attention. And we've just had Thunderclash join, we've just had Velocity join. And so I'm conscious that logistically it's getting difficult. It's entirely possible that we'll just take a step away from the main cast altogether and have a story focusing on, if I say any names, it'll set hairs running, so just on some people that we don't see.
Right there.
Yeah. But I know that, I know there's some characters on board who are long-time favourites of mine. I mean, we've seen Blue Streak's had a bit to do, but I mean, Mirage was on there until Combiner Wars. I anticipate him coming back. Yeah, I mean, and Hound I love Hound. We haven't done much with Hound so far. There's always the Hound posse in the room.
Yes.
Actually, quite an aggressive lobby, the Hound lobbying group. You know, it's like Big Pharma, very vicious. So yeah, so Hound and others. Yeah, I'd like to do some more with them, but it's at the expense of what, really.
Thank you very much.
Hello, James. I'm Robert Smith for Cure.
I wondered when this would happen.
Did you like this integration? I put so much effort into it. No, Dave, thank you. Speaking as a person who's read Eugenesis, that your big work before More Than Tell ever started, and also a person who's a huge fan of a certain faction, which I'll try to keep nameless and vague here. Seeing certain events which happened at the end of Remain in Light, such as what took Pharma's body, has had me scanning every issue for evidence of X and Y conspiracy, and I'm looking for certain elements. And I just want to ask, would the answer to what took Pharma's body be something we'll visit closer to issue 50 or 100?
That was an artfully constructed question.
Trying to keep it vague.
Yeah.
Smith of the Cure.
Yeah, it's true. I've always admired your music, Robert, but I didn't know you asked such good questions. Basically what I'm being asked is, because there was a sort of fan novel I wrote a while ago called Eugenesis, and there were certain villains in there which we haven't seen in More Than Meets the Eye so far. You're speculating and linking them to the whoever abducted Farmer's body. Will those people crop up around issue 50? No, is the answer. Issue 50 is a whole different ballgame.
All right.
Okay.
But closer to 100 then.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, such was the skill of your question. I'm not saying anything.
A lighter question then. What is the first thing Sinister sees when he wakes up, and what is his reaction to it?
I've just been writing about him actually, of course, for the Scavengers two-parter. It's tempting to tell you things about that. I think Sinister wakes up and he thinks that he sees what he's been dreaming about, and chaos ensues. That's what happens, yeah. Or an aggressive door in the distance, yeah, an aggressive door frame. The world's a huge conspiracy. Physical objects are moving against him at all times.
I'm hoping we can settle a debate about Ratchet's motivations in issue 40 when he's talking to Swerve.
Mm-hmm.
What we see on panel
Yeah.
is Ratchet suggesting to Swerve that they invite Megatron to poetry night in the bar. And the two theories are, first theory is that Ratchet is trying to heal some of the rifts in the crew and is intending Megatron to play at Swerve's own bar. Second is that Ratchet is the mastermind of what actually happens, which is Megatron shows up at Mirage's bar, the joint clears out, and Swerves is bumping again. So I'm wondering if this can be settled.
Okay, well, conscious that the latter theory paints Ratchet in a more poor light, I will nonetheless say that is what Ratchet's motivation was.
So Ratchet has it out for Megatron?
Ratchet, he's no saint. Ratchet's no saint. He saves lots of lives. It's Megatron. There's complicated relationships between Megatron and everyone else. Whether Ratchet anticipated, Megatron dying on stage quite so much as I am now, I don't know. But yeah.
Thank you so much. I win that debate. Thank you.
Hi. So if Tarn had a hollow matter avatar, what would it look like?
You're making me create live. Megatron, probably.
Hi. As most of the readers of More Than Meets the Eye probably know, Rodimus lost half of the Matrix of Leadership when he was hanging out with Justice Tyrann. But
You make it sound so friendly.
the other Rodimus who died with the Spark Eater wouldn't have lost it. Are we gonna see anything touched on that?
I do have an answer for that. That Matrix disappeared. I mean, that sounds like a banal answer, but yeah,
Thank you.
More to come on that.
Hi, James. I just have a question. I just read about 20 minutes ago, issue 42, and I really loved the back page, the Earth Dance. What inspired you to put all of those tracks, and why would Tailgate choose Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News?
Well. Okay, so for better or worse, right, I thought it would be fun for an issue to end with them having a dance. Because, it can get pretty dark on the Lost Light, and then, there was a cause for celebration. They'd recovered Thunderclash. We've been seeing Swerve becoming more interested in Earth culture. We saw that in part 1. Because it couldn't just come out of nowhere. It couldn't just be out, out of every possible, we've got access to so many different alien sort of cultures and their music. We've just decided on these. So it was born out of Swerve's sort of burgeoning love for Earth. and we needed a happy ending with the typical sort of sour note at the end. Why did I choose those tracks? Well, I mean, they were tracks I knew, obviously, and maybe it's just really indulgent. And I thought, I know what they sound like, so I know that they work as songs to dance to, albeit an indie disco. The Power of Love thing. Well, clearly, Power of Love is the song which Cyclonus discovered that he really enjoyed when they had the Back to the Future movie night at the end of Olympic Cast. And it's when I say things like that, I think, wow, how did we get here? But yeah, so Tailgate obviously put it on for so he and Cyclonus could have a dance, but it didn't work out, did it? Because Cyclonus missed his mark. He was slow off the mark, and Getaway came along.
Hello.
Hey.
In Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, we get a lot of answers to a lot of questions, like why do the Transformers transform, and like how Transformers relationships kind of work. So is there an answer to why Transformers speak English?
Yes. It's the TARDIS principle, isn't it? It's Doctor Who, it's the TARDIS principle. They don't speak English. They speak Cybertronian, which is rich and detailed and so linguistically complex we'd never be able to even begin to understand the rules behind it. But thankfully, through the medium of comics, we are hearing it in our own language. And that's why even when you come across a peculiarly English or whatever colloquialism or idiom, what you're hearing is the translation of the nearest equivalent Cybertronian statement of fact. So, yeah. It's simple, really, when you think about it. Yes, but yeah, actually, joking aside, I mean, that is, it's like it's the TARDIS principle, because when you've got a Doctor Who episode and they go to an alien planet and they can understand the inhabitants and vice versa, and the TARDIS is doing the translating. So there is an equivalent TARDIS program doing it for us all as readers.
Thank you.
Hi. Are there any characters that you wanted to include on The Lost Light besides, I know, Power Glide you couldn't use originally? Were there any others that, if you could, go back and put them on The Lost Light?
Is that my conscience? Actually, Power Glide was my own fault. I could have had Power Glide if I hadn't suggested to Mike Costa that he use Power Glide in a fight in Chaos, because Power Glide was going to be the tailgate figure. And so, trapped underground. I'm very glad that we ended up with Tailgate, who is clearly destined to be that character. It couldn't be anybody else. There was a time when I just said Prowl in answer to that, but not anymore, actually, because he's so well written in X-Rid, and he's so central to that storyline. And actually, you know what? A bit like Optimus Prime, he'd have such a distorting effect on the Lost Light. I mean, he's such a huge presence. It'd probably be like a centre of gravity, and sort of most of the storylines would bend towards him, which may not always be a good thing. So I'm pretty content. I got Ravage in the end. I wanted Ravage in season 1. I got Blue. I got everything in the end. Blue Streak we got, Mirage. But then it goes back to the earlier question, really. I've got this acquisitive thing going on, but I mean, then I don't always find time to use them, so I feel guilty. So I think I'm happy with my lot. There's a little light down here, and it flashes green if it was a good answer, and red if it wasn't. And we're getting a lot of reds at the moment. So.
Hi there. With Combiner Wars now getting the potential for an animated show, could you or would you like to see potentially More Than BCI get their own animated show? Would you have it more edgy, or would you for adults, or how would you feel it would be saturated for kids, or would you?
I think we could, yes, to the power of 10. That one definitely. We could. I'm open to. We could make it. We could position it towards the younger end of the market potentially. That would be a bit harder. But I reckon 8 o'clock in the evening, an hour slot. Just a modest 22, 26 episodes a season. State-of-the-art CGI. Let's aim high and go for that. No, seriously, that would be amazing. I do think, maybe I'm biased, but I do think it would make a good ongoing. It's Star Trek, it's Firefly, it's Doctor Who, it's going to be all those things. And I think it lends itself to a nice episodic TV series aimed at an older audience with like an overarching story arc. So maybe one day you can make it happen.
So is anyone ever going to tell Tailgate that Whirl's name isn't actually Nutjob?
On the last page of the last issue. When did he most recently? It wasn't that long ago, was it? A couple of issues ago. You said episode's good, exactly. I didn't do it by stealth, you see. I'm just going to drip. Absolutely. I don't know. When the guy gets stale. It could be a while.
And do you and George R.R. Martin have lunch on the weekend or something?
I don't know what you mean. No, I think he goes further than I do. Mind you, if they had a TV series, let's kill with abandon. Let's have a red wedding in episode 3.
So, Soundwave or Megatron?
Megatron. Well, Soundwave in the original, in the Marvel UK comics, Soundwave was the man. He was the one out of all the Decepticon leaders. He was the one that was best at the job, I would say. So, continuity specific.
Who would your ideal voice actor for Run be?
I'm not good at these. It's flashing red already. It's anticipating a bad answer.
David Hyde Pierce?
Yes, I have said that in the past, haven't I? David Hyde Pierce.
And will we ever find out what happened to Ambulon's combiner buddies from the Decepticons?
You might.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could tell us anything about the process of two Transformers becoming conjuncts Endura.
You're going to find out very soon.
Hi. Apologies if this is known information already, but are you planning to work with Nick Roche on Sins of the Wreckers like you did on Last Stand?
No, it's all Nick's. It's 100% Roach. It's very, it's all written. At least I hope it is. Nick says it is. He was definitely going to get to it. I know he said that.
Hi there.
Hey.
So I actually work in mental health, and the entire reason that I started reading More Than Meets the Eye is that somebody came up to me at this con a couple of years ago and told me that Transformers now had a psychiatrist as a character. Off the top of your head, do you have any thoughts about the state of mental health among Cybertronians or Cybertronians?
You don't want to ask me what my favourite colour is? No. I want to go for an easy question. Well, yeah, actually, I think you would be hard-pressed after 4 million years of fighting to find somebody who hasn't been affected by that.
Well, absolutely, everyone has PTSD.
Absolutely. Yeah. Different shades, different and different triggers, and some it's more latent, some it's more overt. A lot of More Than Meets the Eye, indirectly, I guess, is about that really, because they're all, how can I describe it? No, they're all carrying the weight of the war on their back, and it manifests in different ways.
Thank you.
How do you decide which characters live and die, and do you ever put a backdoor in case you want to change your mind later?
How do I decide? Well, I don't flip a coin. No, but it isn't arbitrary. I mean, I do. Actually, you'll find some people that will say the More Than Meets the Eye. It's all it's like Game of Thrones. There's lots of character death, and don't get too attached to people. And then you'll get other people that say, actually, you know what, that's overstated, and actually not that many people die, and the really important ones don't die. So it's got to be, it's got to serve a purpose within the story.
I remember in an interview you said you changed your mind about Tailgate at the last minute.
Yeah, so Tailgate was destined to die at the end of his illness, at the end of season 1.
But you had more story for him, so you kept going?
Yes. Yeah, you should be up here, actually. Yeah, no, it was. I mean, that was, and that's what happens actually, because I mean that was set, that was decided at the beginning before SU1 came out. That's when you're planning out the whole season, and that was where he was going to end up. But it wasn't until I sat down to write that issue actually, part 5 of Remain in Light, that his fate, that he was saved really, because there was a whole other ending. It wasn't just a case of, he succumbs. There was I don't know if I want to say too much, because there were some good feels to be harvested in that alternate ending, and it may be that I find another way to use them. But it was going to be, I hoped it would be a sort of a really heart-wrenching ending, a bittersweet ending that was more than just about the exploration of this spark, but which pulled into the story some other things that we'd seeded in season 1. But no, so he was reprieved. But yeah, when I say it's got to serve the story, that's not necessarily to say that the character has to have a noble death, or it has to enrich his or her individual arc. I mean, it could be the reaction it triggers in other people. It could, I don't want to resort to this too often, but there is something to be said for a shock death. I wouldn't want to overuse that, but that has a purpose. But so no, it's not a case of arbitrarily deciding who's going to die. I mean, at the beginning of each season, every character has an arc mapped out. And some of them end with that person's death. So, but it's mapped, it's purposeful, and yeah, that's how I approach it.
Thank you.
As we've seen in Combiner Wars, First Aid has left the Lost Light along with the other people who were there, seemingly hitting at defensive beforehand. You've seemed to have dealt with that by placing the current story back in time to give you more time to work with the characters. Are you going to get First Aid back? And if you did, are the rest of the crew coming with you? And if you did, and on top of that, would you do anything with Rook?
With Rook?
Yes, the new toy. Who's looks very interesting and looks full of character.
Sell him to me.
He's
you are going to sell him to me?
He's a big, chunky guy.
Chunk is good. Chunk gets you through the door.
He literally has guns at
we have him, for those at home. So here's the newest member of the Lost Light.
He's got like an plugs at the end of his hand so he can use the combiner hand. So he has these huge things. And he has a head. His head is shaped like a Russian.
Like a Russian, full stop. Like a Russian-shaped head.
So I'm really interested with what you would do with this character.
Sorry, well, I like the toy. First Aid's departure is next issue, actually.
Oh.
And and it's on screen, so to speak, and it's not just a passing comment. It's recognised for what it is. And so with next issue, we've sort of caught up with kind of mainstream IDW continuity, whatever. Is he going to come back? Well, someone else asked me this, and there's more, a bit like Tailgate, his storyline isn't over yet. So I'll say that much. I won't tell you when. In fact, I won't tell you any more. But yes, he's going to go away. There's more to do with him, so read into that what you will. As for the Protect Bots and this guy, again, it's what will I do with them if they return en masse, and what will it be at the expense of? So do we suddenly have a main cast of 25? Is there going to be perhaps a clearing of the decks in the near future? I don't know. We'll see.
Thank you very much.